Just last week, I did a story about the six Kentucky football players. And the story had to do with how they were indicted by a grand jury for basically entering domestic violence, what it was, robbery, um, things of that particular nature. But I want to bring you an update as to what has since happened with these six football players. Now, here they are in court where they initially got themselves into a heap of trouble. And with this trouble, they had asked for people to contribute to a GoFundMe, which I absolutely refused to do. And the reason why is because they got themselves into trouble. They went looking for trouble on the doorsteps of a home, of a place where they were not invited. They were not asked to be there. But before I go on with this story right here about these six Kentucky football players, I just want to read to you a little bit as to the outcome of. I'm going to start off in the middle, where it reports a local grand jury has officially decided not to indict the six University of Kentucky football players who were charged with felony burglary and facing 10 to 20 years in prison, stemming from a March altercation at a fraternity party. Now, list all their names. I'm not going to go into that, but if you can remember, and you can go back to my previous video about a week ago, they decided to show up at a party where they were not invited. No one really knew them. It was an all-white fraternity. A white girl met them outside and said that she did not know them and that they were not wanted. So feeling rejected and feeling entitled because they're football players and probably because they're black, they barged their way in. And when they barged their way in, they had an altercation with the males at the party. So apparently they must have lost because they left the party and came back with three more of their boys. Now, apparently, they went to this particular party looking for this. They were not looking for a night out with the boys because they had their bros there with them. What started off with three, they could have partied with the three, they could have partied with the six. But this is what they were looking for. And what happened was that they were rejected. And this particular video here, I'm going to go a little bit deeper to the psychology of white people. And I'm going to reveal some things as to why it's not the case that many times, white women do not want black men. But I want to start off with what gives many black men this delusion as to why they believe that they're so wanted by non-black women. This is going to be three areas in which I'm going to cover. And I'm going to start off at the workplace. Now, I work around a lot of white women. And a lot of times they can be very friendly. They can smile. They can greet you. They can do small chatter. But that does not mean that they're looking for someone to date. Or it does not mean that they're looking to hop in a sack with you. It's just that on the job, they're being courteous. They're being friendly. So there's no way that I'm going to misconstrue that as anything but what it is. Someone on the job being professional. Many people take people's friendliness for flirtiness. So you have to be mature enough to know the difference. A lot of times with white girls, they can be friendly like that. And not saying that other groups of women cannot be, but I'm saying this is the reason why I think there are some black men who take this friendliness the wrong way. Another area which I'm going to speak about where I think that black men get mixed up at in thinking that all of these white women desire them. And this is going to be in entertainment. They see celebrity stars like the Kardashians or the Jenners dating up a storm with black men. And they get this notion that somehow this transfers over into the real world. And celebrities to me is not the real world. This reality TV stars or being a socialite is not the real world. Now, these Kardashians who primarily date black men, with the exception of Kourtney, even the mother's on the action with the black guy. But let me just tell you a little secret about this here. Socialites, models, reality stars, fitness girls, guess what? They only make up about 1% of the overall female white population. So this is not a good barometer to measure anything. It is nothing to be taken into your world or thinking that all of these white women are desiring me because I'm black, or somehow they want a black man. Now, when I speak of this, I'm not downing black men at all. What I'm saying is the truth right here. The vast majority of white women prefer white men. The vast majority of white women want to date, want to marry, want to procreate with white men. The vast majority of people tend to be race loyal. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule, and there's two exceptions that I can think of. Not to speak badly about anyone, not to downgrade anyone, but to speak truthfully. That's going to be Asian women and gay Asian men. Korean women, 60% of American Korean women are married to white men. Over 51% of Asian women as a whole are married to white men. The vast majority of gay Asian men tend to prefer white men. Other than that, most people tend to be race loyal. Now, here's another area that I think that has got black men, a lot of them, mixed up. Most men watch pornography. And if you understand porn, it goes something like this here when it comes to what turns people on. Now, you're going to have to follow me very carefully here because it could be confusing or it could not be. It's just based upon you. Even if you have black men who prefer black women, a lot of black men, when they look at porn, are very much turned on by interracial porn. And when I say interracial porn, I'm speaking of black men and white women. Now, let me speak about this a little farther. So don't be confused by that. That's kind of like a fantasy that many black men may have. Let's go deeper though. So to understand this about porn, you can take lesbian women. A lot of lesbian women are turned on by watching gay porn. A lot of gay men are turned on by watching straight porn, even though they're gay. So you see where that can go all over the map there? But yes, a lot of black men are visually stimulated by black men and white women. So even though interracial porn has jumped like 300%, it's like the fastest growing genre. The vast majority of those watching that, more than likely, are black men. So it is not white women who caused that spike. It is definitely not white men, because white men tend to be more turned on by watching white on white or white men with Asian women. Definitely not turned on by watching black men with white women. So these young men, more than likely, I'm sure like 99% of the time, seeing this type of porn, which is very normal for men to watch. But what they fail to do is separate fantasy from reality. And the reality is that the vast majority of white women do not prefer black men. These women who do porn are there because they are getting paid. They are not there because they necessarily prefer black men. They look at that as an entry to building up a social media platform or account or getting into the business. So I think that a lot of black men see this and get confused and are thinking that this is what a lot of white women want. No, they don't. A lot of white women do not want this. The vast majority do not want this. Now, remember when I spoke about the 1% about socialists and models and things like that? These white women in porn, again, we know this. Porno actors, models who do stuff like this, that's going to be less than 1% of the overall white female population. The vast majority of women are not doing this. So therefore, people should not take this and think that this is a representation of real life, or this is the way that women think, white women think, or what white women really want as a whole. White women who really want black men are going to be in the extreme minority. And these black football players, it's strange how they didn't go to a HBCU or HBC. They didn't go to a black female fraternity party. No, they chose to go where all of these white women were at. And in the process, they got themselves into trouble. They got themselves into a heap of trouble. And what they got, the bitter truth was they were not wanted there. And farther into the fight, when it was 6 of them, when other 3 came back, or when they got other 3 to go with them, they again got into the house right there. And at one point, they punched a female in the face. And why would you punch a female in the face? Because you were rejected. See, a lot of times, football players are the big men on campus. Athletes, you know how people are respect them. They look up to them. They get a lot of praise and glory. But away from the field, they probably were not even known. People just did not care. And at that particular party, why would they think that they would be wanted there or desired there when there were white men there? So it's foolishly to think that somehow, and it's immature also, lack of life lessons to think and believe that white women, vast majority, or white women as a whole, is going to desire you. That is not the case at all. It is not the case. So therefore, this is a warning to black men. Not that they shouldn't date outside their race. I don't tell anyone to do it or not to do it. But I will give you a warning. Fantasy is fantasy. What you see these Kardashians doing, the Jenners doing, that's a very small percentage. Those women represent a very small percentage of the white female population. The women who do porn, again, are a small percentage of the white female population. People smiling to you at work, for the most part, it's just going to be them being courteous. It's going to be them being professional, the white females. So learn not to take those things the wrong way. And it's strange how some black men, their biggest fans, the women who really desire them or want them, are black women. But yet they go out of their way to try to get with others who don't really desire them. Not something I really understand, to be honest with you. But I do understand this. all throughout the history of America, this has been the result right here. Black men seeking validation, the company of white women have ended up in trouble. So that's the lesson that needs to be learned right there. Again, fantasy is fantasy, and reality is reality. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty, and I will see you all beyond and through.